Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Point. I'm Pastor Jeff. I'm here with Pastor Josue.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
Busy.
It was a busy
Very
one.
busy.
We had James's funeral on Saturday morning. You had to book it to a wedding.
I did. I made it 5 minutes to spare. Thanks again for locking up afterward. I appreciate that. But no, it's good. I had my, well, obviously we had the funeral for James, which I think went really well.
Yeah, it was really nice.
It was very nice to see.
A lot of people spoke and said sweet things about him.
Yeah, it was great. And then right afterward, I had to drive out to Whittier for my cousin's wedding, which I don't know if I've ever been to Whittier. I think I've driven through it. I don't know if I've ever been to it, but it was fun. We got there with 5 minutes to spare. And it turns out
But that was for pictures.
Yeah, it turns out we had to just be there early for pictures. And I was like,
to the wedding.
Because the wedding didn't actually start till 4, so I was starving up until then. But anyways, it was nice once we got. And then my cousin had an In-N-Out truck for lunch, so that was nice. And but it was good. It was very nice. We got to see a lot of our family that I don't see all that often. And I wish I guess I shouldn't say I wish. If I did, I would probably make more of an effort. But I don't. I just don't hang out too much with that side of my family. And I hang out a lot more with my wife's side of the family. But it was very nice to see them.
Are they a little bit further away?
They are, out in Whittier. Like my whole family, my whole wife's family is here in San Bernardino. Yeah. So most of my family they live out in Santa Ana, Anaheim area. This family lives in Santa Fe, right there. I guess out towards that Whittier area. So it's just harder to see them. I don't see too much of them.
And then your kids connect with their cousins.
Well, yeah, because my sister was there. Yeah. So my sister's nearby, so I see her pretty regularly. And then our kids hang out with my wife's side of the family a lot. So yeah. But it was nice to see them. It was good to hang out, see people you don't see too often. So it was fun. We got home around 10:30-ish, maybe 11, something like that. We were tired, very tired, and then had to be up first thing in the morning for church.
Five services. But
it's good.
You don't get a break, huh?
Yeah. What'd you do?
You gave me a break.
I did, yeah.
So I was off. I wasn't there at the morning services. No. And I went back.
People are asking for you too.
Yeah. I went to my old church for a 20th anniversary of the church starting. So that was kind of cool. It was sweet to see everyone. And just a lot of people, some people I hadn't seen for 10, 15 years because they were there for a season of the church and then moved out of state or whatever. Yeah. So that was nice. Just to kind of see those people. I missed.
Were you there starting that church? Were you part of that? Really?
Yeah. So that was my first year of college. And so 2005. And so I was there at the very first service. I was part of the church plant.
That's cool.
And we met in an elementary school.
Yeah. So you used to meet at a school.
Yeah. We actually, the first, I don't remember, maybe a dozen services or something. We met at an elementary school at night. So it was Sunday evenings. And then we switched to Sunday mornings and we had to go to a different school. And we were at an elementary school for several years. Wow. I've really actually up until COVID. So 15 years or something, we were at just a church in a box. We had a trailer, tear down each week, set up, get there, set up, practice for worship. Do the service, tear down, and then do it all again the next week.
Those parachurches are something else to be able to do that.
There's a lot of camaraderie though, just like the setup, tear down.
Team,
just kind of
It's kind of what it felt like during COVID. Aspects. We really, I think a lot of us bonded a lot during COVID with the team that would set up and the team that would tear down. Usually it was the same group.
Sure.
But we developed such a rhythm. Damien was part of that. We developed such a rhythm and we left all the heavy lifting for Damien and but those platform things were heavy, but we learned how to move everything over, put it all in the storage thing. And it is. I agree with you. There's a good amount of camaraderie that comes with that. It's fun. You develop it. At first, it's like a lot of work.
Once we had a building, though, it's like, that was a lot.
Don't want to go back to that.
Yeah. It was good, though. It was nice seeing everyone. I did miss being at Center Point in the morning, so this is my home now.
We missed you too. Scott messed everything up.
Oh, no. I know.
I'm just
can't
kidding.
let that guy do announcements.
He did forget to do the greeting. He just got up there and went right into announcements. So we're like, oh, all right, no greeting today. It was only at 8:00 though. After that, he did everything really well. So
I always miss stuff too. I'm like, oh, I didn't say that, or I said this thing weird.
We all do.
Confusing everyone. Well, before we get into the sermon, I wanted to ask a couple questions kind of related on the death issue in this season. Yeah. But we're in Halloween season, And I know a lot of
Yeah, it's
Christians
a couple
ask,
weeks away, right?
the third, what's today? The 20th.
2
So
weeks away?
11 days.
Wow.
Yeah. It's on a
Holy
Friday
moly.
this year then, if I'm remembering. Yep.
What's today?
Today's the
Today's the
20th.
20th.
Yeah. We're recording on
Oh,
Monday,
next
the
Friday.
20th.
Next
Yeah.
Friday is Halloween. The 31st, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Holy moly.
Did you get your costume? No. Well, the question is, should Christians celebrate Halloween? Go.
That's a good question. Next. No, I was kidding.
No.
This is a tricky question because people have wrestled
Yes
with
or no?
this
I'm just
forever.
kidding.
You want my honest truth? I can answer that.
No, it's sure.
Okay. I would say it's not a yes or no answer.
That's what I'm looking for. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay. Well,
it is complex, right?
It is
because it's nuanced.
It's very nuanced. Yeah. Let me just put it this: it comes down to conviction. Bottom line, that's where it ends. It comes down to conviction. If you believe in your heart that it is a pagan, satanic, occultish type celebration, holiday, whatever you want to call that, and your conviction is my participation, is my condoning of this occultish type behavior, then by all means, please, you are absolutely right. Do not participate. If you believe it's an innocent holiday, that you're staying away from the occultish elements of it, the satanic elements, you're using it as an outreach element, your church participates in a trunk or treat, you hand out tracts or invitations for church, you do this, by all means, you're right. Go ahead and do that. It comes down to conviction. At the end of the day, the Bible talks about us having freedom in Christ. We can do it. Not everything is beneficial, admittedly, but if you're able to take something that the world has created and use it in a manner that glorifies God, in a manner that reaches other people, I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that, right? But it's at the same time, don't be a stumbling block for someone. I would certainly encourage anybody, whether they are for or against it, don't participate in the gore element of it, the witchcraft, the ghosts and goblins, all that kind of stuff. The Bible's clear on that. We should avoid that, period. If people want to dress up that way, that's their prerogative. But I would strongly encourage people to avoid that. But I guess I personally don't see anything wrong with it. My parents would entirely disagree with me. They taught us against it completely. But my own conviction is that I'm not honoring Satan. I'm not giving into that stuff. I don't believe there's any kind of, if I were to cause someone to stumble with that, I may reconsider that, but I don't think I have, because of the way we participate.
Yeah, it's wholesome.
It's never been in a manner that you'll never see me dressed in any kind of costume like that, I guess. In fact, this
do
may
your kids dress up and stuff?
Well, our kids do. They do like Buzz Lightyear, and that's what they've done historically. This year, Matthew's going to be Spider-Man, I think it is. Olivia's just going as a princess. That's what she is. I don't even remember what Noah's costume is.
I think our family, we're okay with the wholesome aspects of it. So the kids dress up, they go get candy. We talk about some of the stuff not being good. So if we see gory things, we talk to them about it. It's frustrating. Like in our neighborhood now, there's so many people just go way overboard, and with the decorations, where to me it's bothersome of things like people hanging by a noose or something. It's like there's people that take their life. That's just wicked. Or some of those things. So I would encourage Christians to be tasteful about it. Don't be legalistic. Don't have to be all judgy of others, but at least in your own families, be wise about it. But yeah, I think honestly, the last several years, we probably go to like 5 different festival type things between our kids' schools, church trunk or treats, community, like city events and stuff. So it's really just our kids get way too much candy. I think the biggest consequence.
This is the first year the school invited the parents to be part of a trunk or treat. So we're going to set up our car as like a little pirate ship.
Oh, cute. We did a pirate.
That's what we're going to do. It's the first time we've ever done it, but it's like, why not have a better impact in your community than allow for all this other
a safe place.
And other than that, the only other time we've ever done anything, we went to my sister-in-law's house, and my brother-in-law hands out candies, glow sticks, all kinds of stuff, just a safe place for people to come to in light of all the other crazy places they could be. So
how fun. Yeah, Carrie and I had fun over the years. Mostly pre-kids. Our church did a trunk or treat, but we used to decorate our cars and stuff. So
Yeah.
we did one. The best one we did was one year. She was a SeaWorld trainer, and I was a like zookeeper or something.
Oh, nice.
And so she wore like a rash guard, and it looked like she had a whistle and
Yeah.
stuff. But we borrowed the drum shield from our church, like the stage, so that like plexiglass shield. And then she had this blow up well behind it. So it looked like a tank.
Nice.
And
That's
then we
cool.
had a little like 2-foot fence, like a dog fence kind of thing. And then she had a blow up alligator in there.
Nice.
So I had like it looked like a safari guy or whatever.
Oh, nice.
But that was one of our best ones.
Yeah.
But we had fun doing that over the years. One other question before we get into it is what about, you kind of alluded to this, but just what about watching horror movies? Like, do you have any caution for Christians there?
I guess my question would be, what does it benefit you? Again, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, but I think it can serve as a gateway. Let me just put it that way. I think it can serve as a gateway into
Like demonic,
yeah,
or fears.
And let me just not to make this whole controversial again, but when Charlie Kirk was shot, one of the things that so many people were like, man, did you see all that blood? Did you see this? And one of the things I said the day after at our staff meeting was there are certain things we were not meant to see. And someone literally seeing their lifeblood pour out of their body to that capacity is something that today's movies have desensitized us to. And that's a shame. And the more we watch that kind of gore and horror stuff, and like all it does is desensitize us to the sinful nature of the world. Like we just think that's normal now. And that's why so many people have the audacity to celebrate the death of a person, that they'd be like, oh, you look at that was crazy. And they almost celebrate that. Yeah. I think there's a huge danger in watching that kind of stuff because it can desensitize you. Now, I will acknowledge there are people who are all for the artistic element of that, wow, look at how it depicts this and does that. That's on you, I guess. I personally wouldn't engage in it. My wife and I, we don't watch any like haunted stuff or anything like that. We used to when we first started dating, we watched that stuff all the time, but we just don't watch it anymore at all. I think it just opens a door. It's a gateway into that stuff, and you just want to avoid it altogether.
Be wise, be prayerful about what you take in. Again, I don't think you have to be legalistic, but
I mean, if you're mature enough to handle it, I mean, and you can watch it, that's on you. Go for it, but. Yeah.
I would say in general, the things we watch or listen to or see, just be mindful. Is that creating an impact? Correct. Am I starting to be more negative or fearful, or are there bad things? Garbage in, garbage out is the adage, right?
Yep.
So let's dive in now to the message. So you talked about tension. So this was the third week in the series, Death, I Tell You a Mystery. And you shared with us 3 reasons that you trust in the goodness of God. And you illustrated that you hold these things in tension. Death, which is just awful, and it's hard to see any good in it, but also knowing that we have a very real good God.
Yeah.
So your first reason that you gave is you said that the goodness of God far exceeds my comprehension. And I like how you said that the goodness of God is true, it's eternal, and it's consistent. And then you also said God will never not be good. So the double negative there, but I like it phrased that way. God will always be good, even when things around us don't seem so.
Right.
So your point was about exceeding comprehension. What are some things about God's goodness that you can comprehend, so you are able to comprehend, that help you with what you cannot comprehend? So what about God's goodness do you hang on to help you through that?
I would go back to the true, eternal, and consistent. I would go back to those.
Expand on those just briefly?
Yeah, sure. I know it's true. There is nothing that can happen in this world that will make me question the goodness of God. Am I going to wrestle with how they exist simultaneously? Yes. But there's nothing that can happen in this world that will make me question his goodness.
Yeah.
I will know.
How are you so convinced of that?
It's probably just a lifetime of
The relationship.
of the relationship,
And seeing it
seeing
time and
it
time
in the
and time
Bible,
again. Yeah.
seeing the fulfill from beginning to end. I saw this tragedy happen. I saw how God did something incredible with it, and I continue to see how He is good throughout this all. Even with the illustration I've been using, the life of Bella, it is unfortunate that she died. It is an absolute tragedy, yes, but I have seen the goodness of God through it. I have seen lives that have been impacted by that. Would I prefer that she be here? 100%. But I can see the goodness of God in it in the aftermath now. I can
And
see
that's
how
next week you're going to share more on that. Is
we're
that
gonna
part of the plan, right?
yeah, that we're talking about the restoration element now. Just the how it's going to be very heaven focused.
Yeah.
I'm considering a little bit of the elements of Revelation 21, where He's wiping away every tear. There's no more mourning, death, sorrow, none of that stuff. What Paul talks about going from one glory to the next. That's part of the restoration we see here. He's restoring us, that justification, glorification element. So we're going to look a little bit at that stuff. But so back to the,
you said true. Sorry.
so that was the true. The eternal part is it goes back to He will never not be good. And the reason I said it as a double negative is because that's what my heart and my mind want to tell me when I experience hardship. God is not good.
Yeah.
No, it's impossible for Him to not be good. So you have to see it as it's one thing for me to just say, well, God's good. Okay, but right now it doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. So He is never not good. So I have to remind myself of that. It's just not possible. And so
it's against His nature.
Completely against it. He can't.
Yeah.
So it's eternal. It's it's true, it's eternal, and then it's consistent. He will always follow through. He will never abandon me, leave me high and dry. He will always be consistent with me. He will, and here's the part that comes with a little bit of spiritual maturity. His goodness doesn't always feel good. Sometimes His goodness feels like Him calling me, grabbing me by the collar of my neck and saying, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be doing that. Hey, knock it off." That's part of it. Just like a parent would reach out. Your kid's about to run out in the middle of the street. You're not going to softly, you're going to yank them back.
You might skin their knees, but they didn't get
that's
slammed by a car.
Goodness of God. It is consistent. That doesn't mean that it's always what I expect it to be, but it is consistent.
Great.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that was really good.
Great.
Yeah. The second point was the goodness of God far exceeds my perspective. And you talked about how even when your heart's not in a place to remind you of God's goodness, His word did that for you. And this was you were talking about how at that time, and you said even now,
funeral, right?
Yeah, looking back at the time of really her death and funeral, you said, to be honest, it's hard to see God's goodness in any of it.
Yeah.
But then you talked about just the power of His word. Do you have any suggestions of specific scripture that we could go to remind us of God's goodness? Do you have like favorite verses or passage or anything?
Oh, shoot. Off memory, I probably couldn't. I think the Psalms are always a good place to go to if you're looking for, because you see specifically the Psalms of Lament, because those are the ones that we can identify with almost immediately. It's hard to identify, maybe even some of the imprecatory Psalms, right? Of God judging people and so forth. But the element of lament is what we identify with almost immediately. We do feel at times like God is ignoring us. How long are you going to ignore me? How long are my enemies going to have victory over me? How long are you going to avoid? How long do I have to sit in silence? And that's what we feel. So I think those are always a great place to start, because it will take our heart from this position of frustration and even irritation, maybe even anger, and it will eventually transition our heart to this position of praise, where we can see. I love what David says. I think it's in Samuel. He says, "But I am convinced of this. I will see the goodness of God in the land of the living." We will see it. We will see His goodness. We just have to have eyes to see it. We have to have ears to hear it. We have to be willing to discern that and recognize this right here is a lie of the devil, that God is not good, that God doesn't love me, that I'm being punished, that I didn't work hard enough. That's a lie of the devil. And what I need to do is have eyes to see the goodness of God in all of this, that somehow he is working through this and he's going to accomplish something. So I would recommend going to the Psalms for that.
I would say even Psalm 23 is just a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
Of encouragement. 6 verses too. You could hang on those.
Easy peasy. Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. The Gospels, just the passion narrative is just a reminder of God's love for us.
Oh yeah.
A lot of Paul's letters have some really good stuff in it too. Colossians. I was reading from Colossians 1 today, just the encouragement of prayer. And but I think it's Colossians 2 just talks about the supremacy of Christ.
Yes.
His power, his authority. So some of those, I hang on to those things. God is bigger than the thing that's before me.
So. Yeah, absolutely.
The third point that you had was that the goodness of God far exceeds this lifetime. I wanted to see if you could give us some encouraging or comforting things that you know for sure about heaven. So there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of mystery. What are some of the things that we hang? And I don't want to steal too much from where you're going to go this next week, but just a little bit of preview. What are some things we can be certain of as believers as we think about a lifetime of God's goodness that we'll be part of?
That Jesus is there, that we will be there, that our loved ones who have died in Christ will be there or are there, depending on your view. That it is not, it's something that God has specifically created for us. If we go back to the creation narrative, Eden was an image. It was a preview of that. That's what heaven it was supposed to look like, that we be in relation and in communion with God. As he comes down and walks with Adam and Eve, he had this regular communion with them. That's what that will look like. And the goal is that is going to be restored someday, relatively soon, I believe. And it's going to be an amazing time. I look forward to, I don't think heaven is not angels sitting in clouds playing harps, right?
It's not boring.
No, it's going to be a great time of, I loved a sermon that Pastor Scott preached several years ago on heaven, of what's going to happen.
Actually, it was even last year. I was going to note that. Was that last year, 10 crazy things about heaven?
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
So
was that just last year?
Yeah, I actually listened to it yesterday knowing that we were going to talk about
Did you really? Oh my
death
goodness,
and stuff. So driving home yesterday, I listened. Great message. It was February 25th, 2024.
Okay.
And it's called 10 Crazy Things About Heaven.
Right.
And so you can still listen to it on our app or on our website.
Yeah. It was a really good sermon. What I loved that he talked about in there is that we're actually going to work in heaven and we're going to love our jobs in heaven. It's not going to be a, man, I got to go to work today, right? But there's going to be joy in everything that we're doing. It's going to be a time of worshiping God, a time of celebration. And imagine being able to enjoy the moment without the crushing thoughts of this is going to be over someday. Like to see my kids and think, I'm going to have to say goodbye to them someday, that, I will die one day and I won't see them, or worry that something's going to happen at the school today, that what happens as we're driving down, I'm not going to have to worry about any of that. That worry is no longer going to be that thief of joy in my life anymore. I won't have to be concerned with any of those things. I'm going to have to worry about temptation and betrayal and hurt and death and murder. None of those things are going to exist in heaven anymore. Yeah. And how exciting that is. And it goes back to what I said yesterday. My mind cannot fathom that.
Right. It's hard to think about.
Everything about my life has been based off this idea that it will end sometime soon, that I'm going to experience trials and hardships and sorrows. I'm going to hurt someone. Someone's going to hurt me. My kids are not safe. Like everything about life teaches us that, like, be prepared for this. And what the Bible tells us is that will all be done with one day. And I look forward to that day.
That's very encouraging.
I very much look forward to that.
I like that you said that it's not all just clouds and harps with angels and harps. I remember talking to a junior higher. It was years ago when I was one of the youth leaders, and he was really concerned about we were talking a long time about heaven, and he was so afraid to be bored. And I remember just talking, because he loved video games like a lot of kids do. And he's like, do you think they'll have video games there? And my son, my oldest Sam, asked that recently. He's like, are there video games? Probably the best game. I said, if it's not video games, then it's something far better,
Mhm.
like something for, more than we could even imagine as
Yeah.
far as this entertainment and
Yeah.
things that we get to explore and play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the perfect place.
Mitch shared one time, he was a pastor here several years ago. He shared it in a sermon one time. He put up a picture of blue clouds or a blue sky and clouds. And he says, this is what we often picture of when we think heaven. And he goes, but I serve a God who is infinitely more creative than this. He goes, this is not what heaven is going to be like. It's going to be this amazing place. It's not just puffy clouds and, and it was just a great illustration that he had done. He's like, God is so much more creative than this.
Yeah, he created this whole world.
No
he
way.
created our DNA and our ears to hear sound, our eyes to see the spectrum of colors. Like, how much more will he do the next? After this, I want to just go through a few miscellaneous questions. So these weren't directly out of your message, but these have to do with death that I know people are interested in answers to these things. The first one is, can we communicate with those who have died?
No.
At all?
No.
I don't think.
I personally do not think so. No, at all. I think there's enough biblical evidence to support that as well.
Is it wrong for people to go and talk at gravesides or like going and visiting someone like at a cemetery?
No, I am not. No. I think that, my wife has done that. She's gone to her dad's graveside. Yeah. And she knows where he is, but she finds comfort in knowing physically that she's near what is left of him here. Right.
Sure.
And it's my grandpa. When my grandma died, he stayed here. She's buried in Nicaragua, but he lived with my mom here for a while afterward. And he's like, I don't like being this far from her. And so he went and moved back to Nicaragua because he just needed that closeness. That's the point of what the Bible talks. If we're talking about spouses here, for the record,
sure.
What it talks about, that you have become one. It's next to impossible to just say, I'm just going to leave them there now, and to feel like that is somehow wrong. Yeah. So can you communicate with them is a whole other thing.
Right.
That I would, that's a hard no for me. There's a couple examples.
But it's not wrong to go and talk and.
No, to sit at a grave and have a communication with someone. You're not actually talking with them. You're just, you're going back to something that was comfortable for you, to have that conversation with this person that you loved. And you're not actually expecting someone to come floating out of the ground and talk back to you, right? That's not what it is. But if you seek out mediums, if you go to fortune tellers, if you go to these palm readers and so forth, right? All this, that's a hard pass. That you need to avoid that entirely. That is, I would go as far as to say demonic, and full blown satanic at its core of what it is. There is one example in the Bible, that talks about someone doing that and it working. And it's when Saul, the king of Israel, goes and he visits, it's a witch of like Endor or something is what her name is, it's called, the land, if I remember correctly. But he goes and he talks with her. I think it's in Samuel, 2 Samuel maybe. Anyways, he goes and talks with her, and he brings back Samuel, who was the prophet in that time. And he was trying to figure out if the battle was going to go well that he was about to go into. And he brings back Samuel, and even this witch lady she knew who he was. As he's coming up out of the ground, she sees his spirit and she says, this is Samuel. Why would you bring him back? What's going on? And even Samuel in there is like, why'd you bring me back? What's going on here? And I believe that God allowed, he does, he rebukes him for it. And I believe God allowed that to happen for the purpose of what he was going to do to Saul. Yeah. Because Samuel says to him, tomorrow at this time, you'll be dead, you and your boys, because of what you've done, like just your sin against the Lord. And I have no doubt it included what he had just done right there. And that's the only time we see that happen. And a lot of people argue and they speculate. Scholars have debated, was that of God? Was it demonic?
Right. God used it.
I believe God used it.
It was prophetic.
Correct.
But there is debate. Was that actually Samuel, or did God just use that thing?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. People have seen that as oh, this means we can do it. It is not a prescriptive
Right.
text. It is a
Right.
descriptive text. It's simply telling us what happened. It's not telling us what to do. And so it's unfortunate that some folks have misunderstood that to mean, yeah, we can go and talk to them. I've known people who have thought that certain fortune tellers were quote unquote prophets. That's who they are now. And it's just,
No.
it's no, absolutely. You're absolutely right. No.
Yeah, stay away from that stuff. Tarot cards, Ouija
Completely.
boards. That leads to demonic activity.
And that all came from this small lie that, I'm a prophet. I can tell you the future. God is speaking to me about what is going to happen. But that's not all that God used prophets for. Yes, sometimes they would speak about things to come, but more often than not, he was talking about judgment. He was talking about his will for the people of Israel. He wasn't just coming in saying that, at such and such time, at such and such time. It wasn't all fortune telling, so to speak. So I would, back to your original question, I would avoid that like the plague.
Yeah.
Just stay away from it entirely. It is demonic at its core, and it does not glorify God in the slightest. It's not what God wants for us.
The next question is it okay for a believer to be cremated? And if they choose to do that, or their family chooses that for them, does that impact the resurrection? A lot of people are afraid that if they do that, they should be doing burial because we're going to have bodies that are resurrected when Christ returns, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
Yes and no. Those are your first questions. Is it okay to be cremated? Yes. Is it going to impact the resurrection? No.
Okay.
I don't think it will. So, and the simple solution that I offer to that is what happens to people who die in fires. Like you're telling me that they're not going to be resurrected because of the way they died? I would find that very hard to believe. I don't think there is anything. What the Bible makes clear to us is that these bodies are nothing more than shells. Paul talks about them being mortal and perishable.
Yeah.
Whether we die whether we are corrupted and disintegrate back into dust by fire or by natural process of our bodies disintegrating, one way or another, we're going to go back to dust no matter what. And the Bible talks about in Revelation that even the seas will give up at the final resurrection. Even the seas will give up the bodies that it's claimed. So if the people who have their bodies have decomposed in the oceans, what's the difference with fire? Like, I don't think so. I understand, and I know that there are people who are very hyper-focused on this idea of you cannot be cremated. And to that, I say go with your conviction then. It's not sinful to be cremated, but if you believe it's wrong and that it impacts the final resurrection, okay, I don't want to discourage you from taking care of your loved one the way you think best, but just know that it's not a sin. And if you would rather have them buried, then by all means, go right on ahead.
It's a preference.
It is. That's nothing more. The point is, I'm not going to be in this body in heaven. Right. I'm going to have a glorified body. This high blood pressured, slightly overweight body is going to be done and over with. So I won't have to worry about this body anymore. The Lord's going to do something incredible. There's going to be an incredible transformation. We won't have to worry about that.
It's good to think about these things before. Let your family know your preference.
Yeah. Some people just don't want to. They just, I'd rather be buried. Okay. Yeah. That's okay too. Yeah.
Burial is much more expensive.
It is.
Just FYI. Cremation essentially speeds up the process.
Correct.
But the Bible says from dust to dust.
Correct.
So last question is, how would you encourage a believer who is afraid of dying? So maybe they understand heaven is, there's hope ahead, but just some people live in great fear of the process of dying. Is there anything you would say to encourage them?
That's a good question. I suppose I would just try and encourage them. I mean, you said that they know of what's coming
Yeah,
for,
on the other side, heaven. And
there is heaven, but I would just encourage them. Hey, like if there's loved ones that you've had to say goodbye to, you're about to be in contact with them. You are about to see them. You're about to be in front of Jesus himself.
Hanging on to the hope that's ahead, not the process.
Yeah, and explain how the Bible says it's like the moment we close our eyes here, we are in the presence of God. To be absent from this body is to be in the presence of the Lord. And that's a hope that you can barely put words to. There's nothing to, I would ask them what exactly they're afraid of and maybe pray with them over those things.
I know some would say the pain, the suffering.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine to not want to be in pain. There's nothing wrong with that. And you're justified in feeling a certain sense of anxiety or fear in dealing with the pain of it all. But not everyone dies in pain.
Right.
Some people their heart just stops and they're done. That's it. Their bodies cease to exist. And I would ask those questions. What are you afraid of? Talk to me about what you are afraid of, and let's see what the Bible has to say about those things.
And hang on to those promises, like we talked about earlier. I believe God offers His peace that surpasses all understanding, even if we're going through a season of suffering, physical pain. I think of Stephen as he's getting ready to die. He was getting murdered. He was the first martyr, but he looks and he sees heaven opened up and Jesus. And so there's hope. There's help even going through that awful process that leads us to paradise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any final thoughts or comments you want to make?
Yeah, I would say one thing on this. So this week was supposed to focus very heavily on tension. And if it didn't land, maybe I just didn't communicate it.
You didn't land that giant plane metaphor that you're talking about.
No. Plane, yeah. But what I would say is imagine life without this tension. Imagine that we had to deal with the suffering, the loss, the sorrow, the grief, and have no hope beyond that. That would be hell on earth, if you ask me. That would be absolutely terrible. You think of like a tightrope walker. What allows them to walk that is the tension in the line, that there's something on this side and there's something on this side. And that's where our hearts hang in all of this. So we may not want the pain. We may not want to deal with the sorrow, and that's fine. But imagine living a life unbalanced that way with no tension, where it's either you're here or you're not. You're loved or you're not. You're whatever that might be. You can go through those till kingdom come here, but imagine life without the tension. I could not imagine living a life with no hope. And part of that hope is what Hebrews talks about, this idea, having faith in that is faith in that which is unseen. And right now that's our hope. So we're hanging on to that because we're still on this side of heaven, but eventually we're going to be there. So, it's okay to feel the tension in all of that. Don't feel like you have to navigate that alone. And it just, as we closed out the sermon yesterday, as I did, don't feel like you have to walk that alone. We're here for you. We want to help you out. And we've all wrestled with the same thoughts. And if we can help with that, please reach out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for listening or watching, and we hope that you'll continue to do so. Remember, you could email us if you have any questions, and it could be about the sermon. It could be about the series. It could just be general questions about faith. We would love to answer what we can. Email us at podcast@centerpointchurch.church. We love you. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.